Okay, we are up on YouTube.
Okay, I'm letting people in. Okay, I think we may have the full group here. Does that look right, Mary? Okay, well, happy Monday and happy beginning of May. So Mary and I touched base on agenda from our last meeting last week. And one of the things we thought might be best to start with is when we left, based on proposals, we were very far apart financially, like complete opposite ends almost. And so I thought it might be helpful for us to talk through how do we move forward with us being so far apart. I understand that you all may have gathered some information and we have some information to help maybe explain a few things. So does that sound like that will work to get us started?
You're muted, Mary.
I know. I gotta get. That sounds good to me, Hobie.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, we kind of wanted to hear what you had to say, and then we figured you got that little break you need, and we'll caucus, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of respond is how we were thinking. So.
Okay, that sounds great. So one of the questions that came up last time was some questions around like looking at a couple ranges we had posed based on positions, making some adjustments. And one of the things that we do is take a look at comparable districts, also include some that are neighboring districts from districts we have identified over the past years as comparables and looked at a number of positions, and we can share what we have from that. As our school board does like to look at making sure that we're paying our employees just above average in regards to that. So I am going to make sure I can pull this up and then share my screen. All right, are you able to see my screen at this point? You see classified wages and benefits?
Yeah.
Okay. So you will see here on the left-hand side, the number of districts. We do include, for example, Lake Oswego, because another piece I heard is based on, cost of living in Corvallis is higher than many places. Lake Oswego also fits that area. I would say Westland, Wilsonville, there's some areas in that as well. And we looked at EA positions. We looked at life skills and our custodial positions. And one of the things to note is that some positions based on districts can be a little bit harder to look at, but we kind of tried to focus on some key ones we knew other districts had. And you will see based on the Corvallis, what our starting wage would be.
Hey, Jennifer, sorry to interrupt you. Can you, Isaac asked if you could enlarge it a little so you can see it better.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not monitoring chat, so thank you. Is that better? A little bit bigger? That's okay. All right.
One more click.
One more click. Okay. Good.
Good.
So you will see, we also indicated number of steps that a group would have as far as movement, because we've also talked about that over the years. And so one of the things in our proposal was moving our maintenance one up a range. And you will see when we do our comparisons, that is one group that is a little bit lower than our peer average. And so that is one of the reasons we were looking at wanting to make that specific adjustment now. With our other groups, though, we actually are above average. when we look at for these two other positions. So I'm going to give you just a moment to take a look at it. I'm sure there are questions that come with that. We also have the salary schedules, and I can share this information with you if you would like.
Did you do the same computations for food service workers, as that was the other one that you guys were specifically drawing out in the original proposal?
I
Sorry.
don't
Hi,
believe,
and thank you.
I'm sorry, Marcy, I didn't catch the tail end of that.
I realized that I talked off the top of my head and I didn't say hi or excuse me or anything. So
You're totally good. Thank you. I don't believe we have it for food service, but one of the things that we're working with in regards to our food service is also recognizing minimum wages increasing. So that's a piece we're trying to stay ahead of as well as we look at some of our ranges.
So are these as of this upcoming year, if these have been bargained, or are these for what they're
This
currently?
is the 2021 school year.
So it was what they're currently, okay.
And Olivia put a comment in the chat about the food service to Jennifer.
Oh, okay. Can you, if I go to that, I don't think I can continue sharing my screen.
That's fine. I just said that that's an area where we don't have a lot of comparables because most districts contract those services out.
That's true. Thank you.
Well, I responded. I didn't realize you couldn't see the chat there. Central, who you have listed on here, has food service. So does Silver Falls, Cascade, North Santiam. Just off the top of my head, I know those folks, if that helps with that comparison.
The other thing though, when I hear those listed, Hobie, I also recognize they're a bit smaller as far as districts. I mean, it's certainly something we can take a look at, but that's about the other thing we do try to take into account, kind of the size.
Aren't a lot of these smaller than us though? I mean, I think maybe.
Albany's bigger for sure.
Okay.
The only ones
McMinnville's-
that are smaller than us would be Lebanon.
Central isn't smaller than us?
McMinnville?
I think McMinnville's the same, possibly even a little bit higher.
Okay.
Central's about the same size. Greater Albany's larger. Lake Oswego is larger. Lebanon is smaller. Lincoln County is slightly smaller. McMinnville's about the same. Oregon City's larger. Redmond's larger. Springfield's larger. Westland Wilsonville's larger.
Okay.
Questions?
Well, I was just going to say, we appreciate you putting this together. If you could share that with us, that would be great, so we can take a look at this when we caucus.
Yep, I'll send it. And behind it, you'll see that there's a number of pages that has the salary schedules too. So in case you're wondering, and Olivia did, noted on the side, you can see where it says the name of the position and which probably line item that it matches up to. Okay. So any other questions about this information?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. I will make sure I send it prior. Mary, you had mentioned, I thought that you all had gathered some information as well.
We did. I didn't know what else you wanted to present as far as financials, if there was anything else or.
I think we just really kind of want to have a conversation. So I think the more that we can share kind of back and forth, I think it helps in our conversation.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have some to present. I guess it's just a general conversation of the role maybe of classified employees, how we see classified employees. Is it, are these do you consider your classified employees like our jobs? Besides, we know now that they're essential, but that this is a lot of people's their primary income. You know, it's not um, a job that's just being added to, you know, I have another job and I pick up to work for the Corvallis School District. And as we look outside and see what other companies and even local, say food service places, et cetera, what they're starting to pay, what their benefits are, we were kind of surprised ourselves to see how far they've come. You know, we used to be kind of like at the top of the food chain and really had excellent benefits and wages, and we still have, you know, decent benefits and wages, but compared to what's going on out there, you know, it's a totally different ballgame. And if we're going to try to be even in competition for food service jobs, custodial jobs, I just see us, we're not keeping up. We used to always be, we have another chart we can show later, a nice high percentage above what the minimum wage was. And the minimum wage keeps going up in these little 75-cent increments. So of course that's shrunk and shrunk and shrunk with that philosophy I just heard about just staying above minimum wage. We were always better than that. Knowing Corvallis going up 3.9%, our cost of living, that's currently what it's going up. And I just wonder where in Corvallis can you live? Where in Corvallis can you work and then not have a second job? And I don't know. I just want to see how do you see classified employees really? You know, our value, it's been a hard year, and I know it's a hard time to do this bargaining after coming off this year, but a lot of us are just, it's an impossibility. And with costs of other things, and we've done well with insurance, but with cost of other things, a lot of us, you know, can't afford to retire or look down the road, and we get people coming in and staying just for a short time because they can go off and do something else. And a lot of people are getting vacation from jobs that you never saw them getting vacation from before, even school district jobs. And I just don't see us keeping up, and it worries me. And I just want to see what your guys' thoughts are on this.
Well, I think we would all recognize and say our classified are critical in the work we do. I think it takes all of our positions to be able to run our schools. Each role is different, but they all contribute to our student learning and extremely important. And I don't want to say any one position is more important than another, because we need all of them to be able to do it. And I think even through this pandemic, we've seen where we've had our staff really just step up. A lot of our classified, so, you know, we think of our food service, we're out there every day providing meals. You know, our custodians working very hard in trying to keep our schools clean. So we don't take our classified staff for granted by any means, and we definitely need them. I think there's just so many different things. It's hard, I think, to compare to private organizations when you think about benefits. So I know that's a piece you've looked at, and I can understand how when you look at one piece, it feels like maybe we're not paying that. I also think there's other benefits that need to be considered as well. And I would guess most of our classified staff are coming to work for the school district because they love working with kids. They want to be a part of that. Maybe it's not directly with, it might be behind the scenes, but they play an important role and they want to be a part of that. So as far as, you know, I had mentioned last time, I think as far as benefits, I do think there's benefits when you look at the insurance, for example, the PERS contribution, flexibility in some of the schedules. I do recognize some of our staff work part-time. That may not necessarily be what they want, but it's their way to try and get connected and have that and hope that they continue to grow hours. I've been in many conversations with people about that. So it's a desirable place. I think what we need to try and, you know, through our conversations is figure out there's other ways we can help maybe support our classified feeling maybe more valued if that's a concern. Because again, I haven't heard any administrator, I haven't heard any of our staff say we don't need our classified, just such a critical piece to our operations. And we have such talented individuals too. We're so fortunate in our district to have the quality of staff we have.
I guess part of it was, we used to always include like all the benefits as was part of, what we were making, et cetera. But it just has gotten, everything is still going up, and it's gotten so costly to continue in these jobs and to live or work or even around Corvallis any longer. And um, people love their jobs and they've made these connections and they really want to continue, but so many can't. There's some that are just barely hanging on now. Most of our people don't make it to the end of the month. And it's just getting harder and harder to see. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, there's just got to be something. I hear other districts, I don't know how are they able, and you offered if you want to get into it, the 1%. I've talked to other districts and everyone's getting way more than that. And how are these districts able to do that? What are they, I hate to say, cutting back on, overspending on, that they've changed? Is there stuff that needs to be reevaluated? I just, there's got to be some reason why it's working for others. The lowest one I heard was one group that was just throwing over their contract from last time instead of bargaining, and even that was way above 1%. I just don't see where that figure would come from.
So I would say, we're bargaining, right? Bargaining, you kind of start at a place knowing you might have a little bit of movement. If you start at the, absolute top and we can't go anymore, and then that comes across seeing that we're not being flexible or not willing. So I think we have to recognize, I would say you came forward with almost a 22%. So, I think what we want to do is figure out how do we move forward, recognizing, one, we have to maintain a budget that is sustainable. We don't want to throw money that we know we can't sustain in the future and then start cutting all of our positions, because that's, one, not sustainable, and two, that's just not good operating procedures, and it makes a difference in how we provide services to our students. That's not being fiscally responsible. So there's just multiple factors. Our enrollment over the years have gone down and we were still higher, and we're trying to make those adjustments now. We as a district have been very fortunate with our community supporting our tax levy to also be able to give us services to provide for our students. That has given us the opportunity to bring on more staff to also help in different ways. So there's lots of pieces. We're monitoring other districts bargaining. They're also not bargaining high percentages.
So if I can jump in first. Oh, go ahead, Ryan. You beat me to it.
Oh, okay. And I think that's why we look at those comparables, because that is one of the things that we try to do, is to stay at or above the average there. A couple years ago, it was an increase of 13%. And at that point, I don't know that anybody else was doing that. And so we felt like that was a way for us to stay ahead in the salaries and benefits for our classified groups. We just can't do that every year. And so I don't know in some of those instances if it's other districts that are doing that now and didn't do it a couple years ago. Those things are hard for me to know without the specifics. But back to your question about sort of like, how do we see our classified staff? And I see the classified staff as vital. We could not take care of our kids in the way that we do without our classified staff. Like, that's it. I mean, flat, straight up. That's what it comes down to. We would not be able to do this without the support of our classified staff. And that is something we're totally aware of. We were aware of that before COVID, and this year has really continued to highlight that for us. I know in conversations you and I have had, Mary, about that, and how do we show appreciation for those staff members and continue to recognize and highlight them, because they have allowed us to do it this year. So that's where we're coming from. So we're trying to balance a budget and providing some sort of increase, and at the same time recognizing that the numbers we talked about last time are out of reach for us, And so that's why this conversation is so important. So go ahead, Hobie. I guess you cut me off, but we were going at the same time.
Right. Well, I appreciate everything everybody has to say here today. I think it's good to have the dialogue. I would say that, this is not just a Corvallis problem. This is a larger public school problem, because the reality of the matter is that you are going to lose people. You should just prepare for it. If we don't, our proposal is to try to keep people, not to try to bankrupt the school, because at the end of the day, everywhere, and I'm dealing with 9 contracts this year, and I'm telling you, everywhere this is a problem. This is not a problem unique to Corvallis specifically. People are leaving. They want to stay, but when they have to recycle cans to get to the end of the month, it makes it real tough for them to, whether they love working with kids or not, to be able to do that, because they love their kids, or they love themselves enough to make enough that they can pay their bills and not have their services turned off every other month because they're short a little, right? And that's not your doing. That's just where we're at. The minimum wage, think about if we negotiated a raise that gave a raise like about every 6 months of 75 cents, everybody here would be happy. That's kind of what's happened with the minimum wage, and that's really driven a lot of this, and I think for the right reasons, because we're trying to get people so they can afford to live where they work. That makes sense. But it has created this kind of situation where we're trying, instead of just to be a few cents ahead, we're trying to get a little bit above that so we can keep those people. And I hear 23% or whatever, and then I think, oh, $2, or whatever it might be. I get that, but we're trying to get above that, like Mary had talked about, being 18-20% above minimum wage, like we used to be before all this started, to try to keep those people there year after year, because they are so vital, because it is hard to run a school without them. But I feel like we're heading down a path where if we don't figure out some way to maintain those folks and allow them to be able to survive themselves, doing the work they love, and I see them continuing to turn over and leave, and the costs that are associated with that wreck your budget as well, and constantly retraining and constantly, I've seen this play out in the private sector and in the warehouse jobs, and at the end of the day, we had to do something dramatic to fix it, and it fixed it, but it wasn't easy. It's just not. And I think we need to figure out what that is here, and try to figure out the responsible way to do it. But we're not just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. We're trying to address a systemic problem that all public schools are having, quite frankly, right now. And we're trying to figure out the best way to do it that allows everybody to meet their budgets, but also for the kids to be taken care of. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're all here for. Okay. And that's what we want to see happen. So we do appreciate the conversation, but it's, and the numbers are important, but there is a underlying pressure here that's just going to keep building. The cracks are in the dam now. We either fix the dam or it breaks, right? And so of the 8 of the 9 contracts I've dealt with, I've heard the stories of people saying 20-year employees leaving, not just new people leaving because they have to go somewhere else because they just can't make it. And that's worrisome. You're used to the turnover at the lower level. People change their mind, or it's not what they thought it was. When you have seasoned people leaving, that's worrisome, because they're usually more of your canaries in the coal mine, because they know what to expect. They've been here, and they're choosing to exit stage left. That's concerning, and it's, like I said, it's widespread. So I'm hoping we can figure something out here that works. I think if we keep working at it, I think we can. But I know you got to get to your meeting here, so I should probably stop here. But I just wanted to put that out there, just to let you know we are aware, and we are listening to what you're saying. But I'm hoping that's going the other way too, that you just don't think we're just throwing out these numbers.
So do we want to caucus now, and then you can include your time there, and then when you guys are done, Jennifer, we could come back, or?
Yeah, and I think it'll only be a few minutes. I'm kind of anticipating by 3:10 we should be able to return, but I don't know if you'll want some more
Okay.
time to just talk through. So yeah, I can just text you and we can decide.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, great. Thank you.
Team, I'm going to be going with Jennifer and Ryan.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Marcy, see you
you.
there.
See you soon.
Right. Bye.
Bye.
Carly, I made you host again.
You're back to co-host.
Thanks.
How is it being in the other seat? No.
I'm willing to take a break.
Did it go well?
I think
Good.
people are excited.
Good.
So they just let me know they need about 10 minutes.
Okay, I can put a thing back on the screen if
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to drop out then and go back to our caucus.
Yep, okay. Okay, I think we have everyone back at this point. So Mary, our understanding is you all had some, after your caucus, you had some information you were going to share.
We did. I know it's that we sort of maybe disagree about the comparisons to other places in Corvallis, but I think that's who we're competing with. I hate to say, we're not competing really with other school districts. So we just had some information just to see what they're trending towards now. And then we had a little bit of a another thing to share about comparisons to our wages over the past years. So Marcy is going to present that part for us.
Hi, everyone. First, thank you for giving us this opportunity. When we were talking earlier, one of the interesting things that was shared when it was said that a lot of the comparable districts we use do not necessarily have food service employees, so it was hard to compare with them. And so it does feel fortunate that we can look to compare in our community instead in the private sector if we don't have school jobs that we can do the comparison with. Last time we met last week, we talked about the different wages. For example, that McDonald's has went to $14 an hour as a starting wage, and other places are alongside that with them. And one of the conversations that came up about that is that, but the benefits are different. And one of the things that we've seen really happening in the last 10 years is there's a lot of things that have shifted around what benefits a lot of newer employees especially, but even just employees in general are looking for. But even a bigger shift is what those employers have started offering in order to entice the employees. Jobs that in the past were a lot of times viewed as starter jobs that didn't have benefits actually tend to have them now. And while I'd say the gap between the benefits that we offer, which are great benefits, I do not want to take away from that, the gap is not so great from what can be found in some of these private sector starting jobs. And as we use McDonald's with the $14 an hour as an example wage, I'm going to use the McDonald's employee benefits for you that they have. They do health insurance for their staff, medical and vision. They offer life insurance. They offer obvious compensation, disability to help if you're hurt at McDonald's while at work. They have 100% match for 401k plans. They do obviously workers' comp. They do performance bonuses for efficient and hardworking staff. They have maternity and paternity leave, which again is something we all have. They do not do a fixation on working hours, so they really work to give reduced flexible hours. Again, not necessarily different, but it is the same benefit. They get 2 weeks paid off for medical emergencies. They have vacation, 3 weeks of vacation per year. They get free meals while they work, while they're at work. They have, so when they're not at work, they get a discount. A little different. There's job training, obviously. Tuition assistance, that they give up to 20% tuition reimbursement for college. Another local, not quite as fast food, but another local quasi-fast food restaurant, Chipotle, they offer quarterly performance bonuses up to $5,250 per year towards college tuition. Plus they have a debt-free degree program. You get a free meal every shift. They offer vacation and sick leave. They have free mental health service access for their employees and the employees' dependents. They have a retirement 401k with 100% match. They have medical, dental, and vision insurance. They have an annual bonus every December after 1 year of employment. They have free telemedicine access separate from their insurance, and then gym membership discount. It's not that other employers in the private sector are not offering that things have changed. It has become something that's done. And the gap between saying, well, we might have a lower wage or not as comparable or not as high above as we think it should be, but the benefits are there, that gap is really erasing. And the amount that you're allowed to make and still apply for the Oregon Health Plan and receive it is so high that more members of our classified staff that I'm personally comfortable for, from a heartbreaking standpoint, are actually eligible to receive that. I mean, our wish would be that all of our employees would make enough, obviously, and I know that's your wish as well, that they would not ever need to have to use public assistance, but the rates are high enough that they can. So when we look at all of that, I don't want us to get lost in thinking it's apples and oranges. I think it's more like we have Galas and Granny Smiths. We're still in the apple category. So I think that's just a big thing to consider. It's not that they're not offering benefits. They are, and some of them are really quite good. I'd like to actually talk about some of those. With that said, one other piece on that, we also need to keep in mind, and it's a mental differentiation I make, and I'd encourage us all to consider it. Sometimes we think of things as it's a benefit, like it's a benefit to have summers off, or it's a benefit. We can have something that's a side benefit, like, hey, it's nice and I enjoy it and it's an opportunity. It doesn't mean it's the driving benefit or the driving reason behind why someone does a job. And many of our employees don't hire because they're going to get summers off or anything like that. It's a side benefit. They enjoy it and they'll talk about it, but it's not the reason they're doing it. And it's not the reason they took the job in the first place. And I think it's important to keep it in mind. It's not the driving reason. It's a good reason, side benefit, perk, if you will, but it's not the driving reason. And I think in order to value them, we need to keep that in mind. So next, I'm going to put something up on the screen and Joanne's going to talk to us all. If I have sharing rights. I do. Awesome. Are you seeing something that says?
Yes.
Is that really, is that what you're seeing? All right.
Yes. So what we have here is where we went back to 2015, what the minimum wage was. And of course, minimum wage keeps increasing. And we just took one range, one step, just for ease in comparing. And then if you look to the right, the yellow highlighted column is percent above minimum wage that our employee at range 5, step 1, so their first year, is above the minimum wage. So 2015, we were 18% above, and then you can see the decline, 14%, 11%, 8%. 2019 is when we asked for $1.50 across the board for everyone, and that brought us up to 16%. So that was getting a little closer to where we were 4 years prior. But then last year, we got 11%, and that was effective December 1st of 2020. So then if we go to, so we've declined. And then if we go to 2021, what we're talking about now is district is proposing 1% in COLA, which would be 6% above minimum wage. And what we're proposing is 6%, which would be 12% above minimum wage, but that's still lower than when you're looking at the 18% clear back in 2015 above minimum wage. And again, this is just comparing the one range to one step, just so we could show an actual comparison of one person's wage. And then 2020, it's going to be up to $13.50. So you can, oh, go ahead.
Just that it's 2022, in 2022.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So anyway, you could see how we've declined in percentages. Then we started to kind of make up, dropped, and then we've even, the 1% COLA is almost half of a drop from the prior year. So that's where we stand, or, you know, what we use to compare. And that's all I have to present.
Good job.
Thank you, Joanne. Any questions? Okay.
I don't think so. Can you,
Okay.
can you send that to us, Joanne?
We'll make a copy and send it, Ryan. Thanks.
So then I think maybe if you could give us a little bit of time to caucus. I
Okay.
don't think we need long, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks. Mary.
Jennifer, do you just want to text Mary when you're ready?
I can, and thank you, Marcy and Joanne, for that information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Looks like we're just waiting on Hobie.
Okay. He's coming.
All right, it looks like we have everybody.
Okay.
Okay. So, so thank you for sharing all that information with us. You know, one of the things that, you know, we hear you and we always would like to do more. And we also have some limitations. One of the things that, when you look at the minimum wage increase, the state school fund has not increased in that same kind of expedited pattern that the minimum wage has over the last couple of years. So that's one of the things that I think makes that difficult for us, because I hear you and how that's changed, but the revenue that coming into the school district is not coming up at that same rate. I think that's why Hobie's having the same conversation in 8 of his 9 districts. Right? I think that's probably pretty accurate for them as well. And we're not a business, so we can't increase costs. We basically have to look at what's available to us. And the other thing is looking at the staffing that we have, because if we can't increase costs, then in our largest, or prices, and our largest cost is in staffing, 85% goes to employment for our staff, then that's the thing that gets impacted by this, by how far up we go, which isn't a fun thing to say and probably not a fun thing to hear. But it is the reality of our situation. So the thing about that for us really becomes hearing where you're at and trying to figure out what's possible for us. You know, oftentimes in negotiations, you go back and forth and you make a little bit of movement one way or the other, and try to get where you can get. And what I'm trying to do is recognizing that we're not going to have any new information about funds anytime soon. So we're putting our budget together. That's going to go out to the budget committee at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. So that's really where we're at in terms of what funding we have. So, we typically go back and forth, and I'm just trying to get us to the point where we can just work towards getting the increase into salaries in July, rather than negotiating throughout the summer. And so the best we can do, literally the best we can do, is to maintain within the parameters that the board has given us, and looking at trying to stay above other districts around us, just a little bit ahead of them. The best we can do is looking at those salary ranges. So I'm continuing with that and doing a 2% COLA. That is really the best that we can do. And I hate, in negotiations, you don't want to always say that, because then there's, the back and forth of it. But I just feel like that's the integritous thing to do, is say, this is what we can do, and this is what we're able to do. And that's really what we're able to do. So I just wanted to put it out there, because that's the current reality for us.
Okay. I don't know what you want me to say. I just, it's always brought up the staffing part, where it's almost not really a threat, but to keep saying that's what you have to look at. I know that the 2% is not something that we want to settle on, but we do have to have some conversations on it, and that can't happen right now. It's already after 4, so we need some time
Mm-hmm.
to look at that and
Mm-hmm.
and go over that and everything. And then there were other pieces too that were involved in the bargaining. So that we'd have to continue to look at. So
That language piece that Hobie brought.
yeah, that big piece and then the PERS part and some of the
Yeah.
other things that you brought up.
Marcy has her hand up. I
I
don't.
just want to ask a clarifying question if I could. Make sure I heard what I think I heard.
Yeah, I appreciate
Saying
that.
based on the budget information that you have in front of you now and the current direction from the board, 2% is the best you can offer. Is there updates to that budget information expected? And if so, when?
May 19th.
Okay,
May,
so
May
that's
19th. Okay.
okay. So I wanted to thank you. I mean, thank you. That was the movement and we appreciate that. But since you gave some parameters, that's the possible around it, I wanted to get just a little clarification.
Yeah, and I don't know what Kobe's talking about May 19th. I mean, that's not going to change the state school fund, right?
May 19th, we're supposed to have some numbers out of the committee. It will not be the final numbers. Those, as we all know, tend to be like the start of June. We tend to have the clearest picture. But that's what the committee will be suggesting, is my understanding, is May 19th they'll release that information at State House.
So Ryan, when were you thinking that you would have more updated budget numbers?
Olivia, what were you thinking it would be midsummer?
Yeah, we're not anticipating any change to the Legislative Ways and Means Committee budget framework at this point in time. We're essentially waiting to have the legislature actually adopt the budget and appropriate the funds, which generally happens like late June, early July. We haven't received any information from the state level indicating that the state school fund allocation will be increased. It hasn't changed since December when the governor released her budget, so it hasn't moved since then. And we've had 2 positive economic revenue forecasts come out since then. So I don't know that another positive economic forecast is going to have any impact because it hasn't thus far.
Okay, and I will share up my information and report back to you. My understanding was that May 19th was a significant date to get a better idea of where they're looking at landing on the total funding for schools for the state. But I will double check on that with my folks. That's not a problem at all.
Thanks, Hobie. I appreciate that. That's why you said that May 19th date. I was that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, and I'm hearing it back from other folks too that want to hold off until May 20th or whatever because they want to meet, they want to get that information. So I just assumed it was widely available out there. But I could definitely dig that out and get that to us next time. I think for purposes of between at least now and then, or maybe the next meeting. I mean, we appreciate your counter proposal. I mean, it is a proposal. It is a counter. We do appreciate that. It does show movement, like Jennifer said. We're all starting where we're starting, and this is bargaining, right? So we understand that, it would be good to have some discussions about the other pieces. I know we have some stuff in there about PERS, and we have stuff in there, I think, about coaches, and we have some stuff in there about a couple other topics that it would be good to see if we could maybe get our arms around some of that. The language that's surrounding 2016, just to be real clear about, is fairly detailed because it was the labor of love between myself and Mary Hungerford for many months of bargaining it. So it's highly detailed because Mary Hungerford is very detailed. So that's just where that came from. It's what's up there in Silver Falls that I just pulled down and slap your name on it. That's really the difference. But please take a look at it, see if it makes sense, so we can start having those discussions the next time we meet. And then I guess where we'll be at is we'll be coming to you with a counter or a response of some form to your proposal that you gave us just now. And then the other things, I think we're just waiting to hear what you have to say about them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I've gathered some other language that you've also agreed to in other districts on the House Bill 2016. And I actually have a modified proposal on that piece that I could certainly share with you now. I know it's something not to sit and go back and forth. It's sitting kind of reading through it and So I can send that to you with putting it in writing, what we just offered, along with those comparables.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Comment?
I picked that one just because you have the same attorneys, to be really honest with you. It's there's some different stuff in different areas. It really just depends on what people are comfortable with, you know.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned last time you didn't put the full law in. It is quite lengthy, but we also
Yeah.
don't put most laws into our contracts. We just know we need to, you know, follow them. And so I think you'll see pieces, but definitely not quite the detail level. So I'll get that sent off to you. And then just looking based on time, I think when we come back, our next meeting I show as of May 10th. And that one starts at 2:30 as well. And then we can hear from you on the pieces, and then we can respond to those remaining couple pieces you had just mentioned.
Okay, yeah, that sounds fine. The one distinction that I would make with 2016 is, and actually PERS, is that 2016 in the actual body of the law says we have to meet the bargain. It's a little different than just a regular law change, just the distinction that it's a difference. And then PERS, there was actually a decision from ERB, the Employee Relations Board, that clarified that we did have to bargain that. That's why they're just a little bit different flavor, you know, than the regular just laws being passed and we just follow them type of thing. So just to clarify.
Right, but that's what we're doing. We're bargaining on
Right.
those right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
All right. So our team, can we jump back over to our side, and then we'll see you guys on the 10th?
Sounds
Okay,
good. Thank
amen.
you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, guys.